Okay, welcome, my friends, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to do another somewhat informal video today. We're just going to be talking a lot, mainly around, well, two things. Number one is the mass layoffs that are occurring right now, predominantly in the US, but they're kind of occurring everywhere at the same time. And they're not really being talked about because it's not popular news. It doesn't get the click on the website. So the news outlets are not really talking about this as much, but it is really important and it's about to get a lot heavier. And then what I want to do is, rather than just tell you all the doom and gloom, as it were, I want to give you some advice around this, because I have my own community, as you know, and this has been a big one that I've been getting a lot of questions on lately, and especially in the last 2 weeks. I've answered this question so many times that I thought, well, I'll share my advice with you on what I shared with a lot of these people and what I've shared over the last couple of years, which has helped a lot of people to replace their income, get better jobs, and prepare for a lot of the stuff that's coming. So that's really what we're going to be talking about in a fairly informal way today. And just to give you a bit of context to this, because you might not have seen this, let me just go to the shared screen and show you a couple things here. So you've probably seen about this new plan, the government efficiency, where it's going to save $2 trillion from it. 2 trillion is going to be cut from the federal budget without new laws. And this is Musk and Ramaswamy who are going to be leading the way with this. So this is nothing new. You've probably seen this quite heavily, and I've talked about it as well. Now, one thing I do want to mention on this is how, because we've started to see now how they are going to be doing this, and it is with a return to office approach. Why? Well, because they know from, I think, this case study here, what happened. This was out of Forbes in October of this year, so about 7 weeks ago now this came out, and it was quite an interesting read. And it was why Amazon's return to office mandate is a warning for the future of work. So what actually happened then when Amazon did their, and to give it away here, this is one of the proposals which hasn't officially been stated, but I think it's quite clear what's going to happen. And what that is because Ramaswamy's idea was to just take everybody with an odd number and fire them from the federal government. And I thought about that a little bit more and realized that's just crazy. It's crazy, because it just simply wouldn't be efficient. And what if you had 10 people in one department and that's all you had, and they all had odd numbers? The whole department would disappear. Now, you could probably do that with some of these crazy departments that exist in the US government, but not all of them. So I don't think that's going to work, the whole odd number, even number, and if your number's odd, you're fired instantly. I don't think that would cut it. But they are just going to be wiping out entire departments. And if you remember, Milei did this in Argentina. And we're still monitoring the effects of that. Somewhat effective in some regards, not effective in other regards. I mean, why anyone would completely cut out the entire department for tourism, I have no idea. Craziness. Tourism accounts for a huge amount of GDP, and to just wipe out an entire department. But anyway, so this is one of the proposals they're looking at, just getting rid of entire departments. And I think what a lot of people don't realize about this is that, and we've taught this lesson a lot before, is employment scarring. So yes, in the long run, it's going to save a ton of money from the government, but in the short term, it's going to be very painful, because what do employees do? They earn money and they spend money. What do they spend money on? All sorts of things, from things that people need, food, housing, etc., right through to things that you don't really need but you enjoy. The US economy, 70% of the GDP is simply from consumer spending. So if you were to cut 2 trillion out of the budget right away, that would have a massive impact. Now, long term, it would be a positive impact, but short term, it will be quite painful. And the idea is that a lot of those people will simply just go into other jobs that are needed because they're going to be closing the border and stopping mass migration and stuff like that. Yes and no. If you think about the people in these government departments, are they going to be replaced by? No, it doesn't make any sense actually. I'm just thinking this through as I'm talking about it. People who are coming into the country illegally, which was one of the things I was reading about. And again, this wasn't on like from Musk or Fox or anyone like that. It was just an independent article where they were saying that was the plan. That doesn't really make any sense because they wouldn't be able to get those roles anyway, right? So there's a lot of weird stuff around this, but it would result in some employment scarring, which means that the economy would take a dip for a little while. Again, a lot of these plans are going to affect the economy in the negative way initially, but long term, they'll be very positive. I also think that we're going to see the stock market rising, although there's a lot of problems as well with it. But I think we're going to see some good rises in the stock market as a result of a lot of these policies, because we're going to see less government spending, but we'll see a lot more spending from companies, especially investments. So it's going to be a very mixed bag. But what I wanted to show you with a lot of this was what happened with Amazon then when they issued this return to work mandate, which is what Musk is talking about. A lot of the people just wouldn't return, so they were able to fire those people quite easily. Now, I think that's going to be one way that they do it. And I was looking through who works in what department, and there really is a lot of staff, and I'm sure they can start cutting some of these staff quite easily. But this was very interesting. Let me just play this clip to you a second.
70% of the people we surveyed said they're bracing for layoffs in some way. That means different things to different people. 40% of those are people who say they're saving more of their income than usual. 32% say they're actively browsing job listings. And 24% say they're actually applying to new jobs right now.
So what we're seeing then is quite clear. We're already seeing this. It's already started. 70% is not a small number. A lot of people are already starting to see the writing on the wall, but there's still a lot of people that aren't. And this isn't just the US, this is Canada, this is the UK, it's across the Western world. And yet there's still a lot of open jobs, right? Companies are always saying they can't fill jobs. And here we go. Let me show you some of these statistics as well here. This is a great website. It's called layoffs.fyi. It's a tech guy basically who left his job and he just, I think, does this for fun. But it shows you all of these layoffs that have been like 15,000, 14,000, 12,000, 11,000. And they go on and on and on. This is just tech. This is one industry, one sector. It is huge. This one out of TechCrunch shows all the layoffs: 15,000 in Feb, 7,500 in March, 22,000 in April, 11. You see where this has been going. Now it has slowed. September and October saw much smaller numbers. August was heavy. It was 26,000 layoffs, and this is just tech, by the way. CNN, I'm not disappointed to see this. CNN is about to do mass layoffs. That's probably a good thing. General Motors, mass layoffs. They actually emailed, this just came out a couple of hours ago. They emailed staff at 5 a.m. saying, that's it, basically. We're laying off lots of workers. Who else here? Ford, 4,000 jobs. Again, look at the dates here that I'm showing you. November 21st, that's today. 4,000 jobs. And they said here 14%, this is amounting to 4,000 jobs by 2027. Salesforce, it's doing mass layoffs as well. AP, which is a news outlet, doing layoffs. It's going to cut the workforce by 8%. Now, we've talked about this before. In fact, we'll come to that in a second. This was another one. I think this is Boeing, 438. So 10% of its workforce, 17,000 jobs they're going to cut. Now, what surprised me about this, because I always say to many of you, you get a job in engineering or some sort of science or technical, then you're pretty safe. Well, look, 218 engineers and scientists, 220 from the technical unit, Oregon, California, Utah. For those losing their jobs, Boeing, now this is really important, Boeing is offering limited support, including career transition, subsidized healthcare benefits for up to 3 months. That's it. 3 months, and severance packages, typically 1 week of pay up to 1 week of pay per year of service. So this isn't a lot. Imagine you've done 10 years, you're one of the old timers, you've done 10 years there. That's only 10 weeks, that's 2.5 months for you to figure something out and get a new job. I'm going to give you some tips on this in a moment, but I just want you to get the impact of what is going on here. Look at all of these more layoffs as well. 40% of its workforce here from 23andMe. The stock price 98% drop. Please tell me, guys, you've taken my stock market course and that wasn't you. Any of you got hit by that, because that was an obvious drop. It was obvious that was going to happen. Another one, AMD, 26,000 employees. This goes on and on and on. 16%. Even in the UK, Edinburgh University is going to be cutting jobs. This just goes on. And we've now found out that the current administration was lying about the job figures, which I was saying for, years. I've been saying for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been saying these figures don't add up with my figures. They're lying about the figures. People thought I was a bit nuts for saying it, but it's true. Look at this. They've now revised all the figures, and they've come back and said, actually, we overdid it by this amount. So it's huge. This is enormous. What they didn't overdo was the government figures. So they added plenty of jobs there, which are about to be cut. Target as well has just sounded the alarm bell on holiday spending. Now, this is important because they're kind of the bellwether for the economy. So we're seeing a lot of headwinds at the moment, and even the stock price plunged 22% on Wednesday. Again, consumer cyclical stock. So that was very obvious that something like this would happen when their earnings came out. A lot of the investing, by the way, in the stock market, I know it's off topic, but it is fairly straightforward as long as you do the easy analysis. Or I know a lot of you trade this stuff. Let me go back to what I wanted to share as well. So let me just give you a couple of notes here then of things that I wanted to talk about on this. I've mentioned the employment scarring. So when you start losing money, or employees start losing money, they can't spend into the economy. That affects the local economy. It affects businesses. So they make more cutbacks. They fire more employees, more staff. It's a negative cycle. And then people shift to necessity. So what do they start doing? They start buying food. They focus on their housing. By the way, payments, rent payments, mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, these are all suffering right now. People are maxed out. What do they stop spending on? So this is a clue for the markets as well. Consumer cyclical, you see a lot of this. They stop spending in retail, restaurants, all sorts of things, and then you see more layoffs in those sectors. So what I'm saying is you just want to always be ready, and I want to give you some tips on this in a second, but you always want to be ready for these potential scenarios that can affect us at any time. So I made a few notes then. What are some of the things, because I've been asked these questions a lot over the last couple of weeks, what are some of the things that I've said, or in my courses, what do I teach people to do? Number one is always financial. It's doing that basic mathematics and looking at income and expenses. That's the first thing you always want to look at. Emergency funds, everyone should have an emergency fund of 3 months. If not, then this is where you get massive shocks when you do get a layoff that you don't expect, and things like that. Remember, these companies care about profits. It's not like it was back in the day. I was going to say in the olden days. In the olden days, no, it was brutal. You were serfs. But no, back in the day, companies did care more. A lot of people have said this. Companies did care more, but it's not quite the same anymore. They will cut you because it's shareholders. It's faceless entities. What else would I say? Reduce debt. Always make sure you reduce debt when you can. Bring that down. As opposed to using money to speculate, use the money to pay off debt. It will just help give you a cushion as well, and your emergency fund. Diversify income sources. Some people still just have one income source and they rely on that one job or income source. Even sometimes people with families, kids, and maybe only one person's working in the household and it might be a lower income. These are the sort of things you want to avoid as well. You want to diversify, have some other income streams. I meet people all the time, the taxi driver. I'm in Paris, by the way, at the moment. I'll share about that another time. Making a video, which was an absolute fail today. The snow was so heavy, it was impossible. But the taxi driver, anyway, he was an Uber driver. He's a Bolt driver. Bolt, is it? I think is the other one. He does all sorts of food deliveries. He had like 5 different jobs, and I was saying that's smart because if there's ever any issues, you're not going to be effective. You'll always have some sort of income. Now, I'm not saying if you're a scientist or you got a good job to do something like that, obviously not. But what I would say is that you can use your skills to set something up or just have a plan on the side. I've had even doctors that have taken, say, my cash flow blueprint, say, oh, I set up this thing on the side and now I've got I won't say all the things they've got actually. I don't know if I'm allowed to say what they do on the side if they get paid by the government. But you understand what I'm saying. There's people that do a lot of things on the side, engineers who are designing ideas and freelancing and all sorts of things you can do. So yeah, make sure that you're a little bit diversified. And the best way you can ever do it is a digital income as well. I probably got 40 to 50 income streams. Don't say that to brag. It's just that's what I do, and that's why I teach this stuff, because I know what I'm doing. Invest in upskilling, adopt more of a growth mindset, take more courses, things like that. You don't have to take my courses. There's loads of courses you can take. You can sometimes take really cheap courses. You can find courses on YouTube or Rumble or some of these other platforms, So you've got a lot of options. Check your skill level. Is it still up to date at the moment? Can you get new qualifications? Will your employer pay for you to get these qualifications? So many things you can do. Oh, leverage AI and technology. It's important to jump on board these trends with AI and technology. And then the last thing, which is the most obvious thing, is don't ever quit a job unless you've got a job to go into. This is one of the oldest bit of advice ever. But start a job search on the side. Always be looking at the marketplace, just seeing what's out there, just in case. Always just have yourself out there just in case. And the last one's freelancing or consulting. Again, it will apply to some people, but not to everyone. So that's what I'd say my top tips. I'm definitely seeing a lot more layoffs at the moment. I'm getting a lot more questions from people about how can they earn some money, how can they avoid these layoffs. Some of them have been given notice that they're going to be laid off from their job. What can they do? First thing you do is looking at your skill set and seeing if you can do something that is digital, because if you do something digital, it's massively scalable, and it's very easy in this day and age to do this stuff as well. So easy to scale your talents or learn new skills. People always need something, right? There's always people out there that need something, willing to pay you for your services. So that is what I would say for all of this. But yeah, Paris, it was absolutely horrendous today. I don't know if I can show you any of the stuff here, but oh gosh, let me see if I can show you a little clip. Yeah, here's me today. Hold on, can you see that? I just got absolutely annihilated. The snow was so heavy, it was crazy. But let's see if we can put that video together and get a bit more footage and actually do this justice this week. All right, thanks so much for watching, and take care. God bless you all, and I'll see you next time.